These Shadchanim are, excuse my French, a bunch of idiots who have no idea what they're doing, and they just push. And because of doing stuff like this, such as essentially they're not trying to lie, they just don't look into it. They see some stupid resume on a WhatsApp chat, and they just like go based on that.
And she was like, okay, you can't tell me that we're hashkafically compatible if he hasn't gone to Minyan in 2 years. Not that not that it's a bad thing. If that's what the guy wants to do, then let him do that. But like, don't try to convince me that our hashkafas are totally aligned, trying to convince me to go out with him. And then I find out that like actually it's really not. Like there's a big gap. Apparently in those 2 years, maybe the shadchan hasn't spoken to him.
There is no more common sense. They really are so stuck in their ways. Like this is just how it's done now. I don't think people have really brought it up to them that, by the way, you suck at what you do. You should probably rethink this. You're actually causing a lot more harm than good. Like to them, they're doing a lot of good. Them, they think they're doing a great job. They think they're setting up all these people and they're doing the best job that they can, and no one's really called them out on it, and they really don't realize.
Sarah and Max, an unlikely pair in this wild podcast. They're the perfect flair. Sarah's charm, so feminine and free. A Cali girl spirit under the podcast tree. Max is strong force with a punch in every word. Together they navigate the dating absurd. Don't forget to hit subscribe, join the crew for more laughs and tales just for you. Now back to the show.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Good for Shidduchim. I am your host, Sarah Levine. I have my co-host with me, Max Landis. Are you okay?
I'm saying burn the fushos.
Oh, I thought you like
because it's good for Shidduchim.
You burnt yourself on your coffee.
No, not at all.
Oh, okay. Well, anyways, welcome back, guys. We have another episode for you guys today. It was actually inspired by somebody who sent us an email. So we wanted to thank Daniella. She's the one that kind of inspired us to talk about different subjects for this episode. So we really, first of all, wanted to say that it was very brave of her to email us and allow us to use her first name and discuss basically different subjects and topics that she emailed us. So we're excited about that. Also, if you guys want to like us, please give us a 5-star review, subscribe to our Instagram, which is Good for Shidduchim. Email us, which is goodforshidduchim@gmail.com. And yeah, we'll get right into it.
And this also goes to show you that we read emails. So if you send us an email, we'll actually read it.
Yes, we will read them. We do read all of them, even the AI ones that come in. There was like a couple AI ones. Did you see those?
I don't read those for the most part. Those are just sales.
Well, I was like, ooh, fan mail, and then I was like, oh wait, no, it's an AI bot, but that's okay. Yeah.
That's okay.
But basically what Danielle wanted to she just kind of put into our thoughts basically some issues that she brought up in her email. And one of the issues that was very interesting to us and that we were speaking about was the fact that when she came back from seminary, she was 19 years old and she started to meet with shadchans. That's what you do at her age, especially the background where she came from, the seminary that she came from. She wanted to start at 20 years old. And as she was meeting with shadchanim, they were telling her she is too young, not time to start yet. And I thought that was interesting because and also you thought that was interesting, Max, because
I've never heard that before. Usually
we thought, yeah.
I mean,
I was under the impression when I came back from seminary, everyone was in Shidduchim. We were 19, we were 20, and mothers had shadchans like lined up every like day of the week to meet with you. Or, I mean, I didn't come from that background, but a lot of my friends, like that's their life after seminary. You get off the plane and you buy new clothes for Shidduchim.
Are you serious?
And yeah. Oh yeah.
Funny.
Oh yes.
That's funny.
There's a whole new wardrobe that goes into it. There's a lot of thought behind meeting a shadchan. So,
wow.
So we just thought that was interesting because if somebody at 19 and 20 is being told that they're too young, and somebody 26 and up is being told that they're too old, like, where's the happy medium? You know, like, so are girls supposed to start at like 22 to 24? Like, where's the age where shadchans will just be happy with people just starting to date or starting to present themselves? So I thought that was very interesting.
Sarah, do you know how many memes I've made about this? It's like you see some like I'll probably if you're on YouTube, I'll try to put it up here. But you see some
Yeah.
gorilla like I'm gonna get in so much trouble for this, but you see some gorilla basically on a bicycle chasing this little kid. So I captured it, a shotgun chasing a girl straight out of seminary,
Yeah.
basically. And there was another one where you see some mother, like you're in a pool. A mother is playing with like her toddler or whatever. So it's a shotgun and a newly released seminary girl, and you see like another kid basically drowning on like the 25-year-old plus is over there drowning,
Right.
and underneath the pool is literally like bones. Yeah. So there's so many memes about that. So it was interesting. I've never heard that before in my life. Usually shadchanim are salivating over like fresh meat 19, 20-year-old girls, what every guy is looking for, right? That's in quotations. Not every guy is looking for that, but a lot of them apparently are. So yeah, it was interesting. I've never heard that before.
Right. And I mean, it could have been just like,
was it just one shotgun, or there was like just a bunch of them?
No, it from what I could understand of what she was saying was that it was not just one, or it was like a couple shadchans or a couple people that maybe aren't shadchans, but wanted, are into setting people up. And apparently a lot of her friends were getting engaged and either using this matchmaker or talking to this person that sets people up. Either it is like a shadchan or a friend or a family friend. So she ended up speaking with her because she noticed that like her friends are getting set up by this person who are her peers, and the shadchan told her that she was just like too young. And she's like, but wait a minute, like people my age are getting engaged. So like, how am I too young?
Or being set up from the same. So they're being set up from the same person. This person is saying you're too young, but meanwhile, behind her back, she's setting up other people.
So it's more of like peripherally. She was telling the shadchan like, but my friend who's like 19, my friend who's 20, my friends who just got back from seminary, like, are like, how can you say that they're not young when we're the same age and they're getting engaged? I'm not sure if this shadchan was like setting her friends up who are the same age, but I think it was more of her just trying to understand if other people around her age are getting married and being set up by other shadchans. Why is this shadchan or this person pushing her away from even trying to go into Shidduchim? Because she's like, people at 19 and 20 around me are getting engaged. They are dating. They are getting married. So like where's the balance? Like, it was very confusing. And then as I was talking with her, I was like, I'm also really confused. Sounds like, nobody at any age can please anybody.
Yeah, I mean, like I could see it listen, I'm not the biggest fan of of trying to get married at 19. Like I'm generally not the biggest fan. However, everyone, has free will.
It was just her circles.
Right.
It was just
everyone
her
has free
circles,
will.
yeah.
They can do whatever they want. What wouldn't make sense? First of all, again, like I've never heard that before. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Honestly, if that's where if the shadchan is, that's her stance. She doesn't set up anyone who's 19 and 20. I'm all for it. Honestly, if that's her policy. But if she told this girl, you're 19 and 20, you're too young, and then behind her back is setting up 19 and 20-year-olds, that's pretty messed up, and she should be pied in the face. But
right.
if she's just
I'm
a random,
sure if that was the issue, but But I agree
If
with
she,
you. Like, if that
I,
was the issue, that would be just not fair. But
but if she's just saying like, I'm sorry, I don't set up people who are 19 and 20, I don't see an issue with that per se.
right, right. Right. No, so I also, if I was also thinking the same thing, like, okay, if a shadchan is saying that she only sets up people who are like 21, 22, I understand why she would be pushed away. But I think the overall picture is like, okay, so then like, when do I start dating? Because when I reach 21, I'm already too old, or like I'm already like, why haven't I started shadchanim yet? You know what I mean? So 19, 20, you're too young, but starting at 21, 22, like, why didn't you start when you were 19, 20? Like, there's just like no pleasing anyone.
I'm curious to know how many people told her that. I mean, like, there's no way that there are. I mean, like, every shadchan would be salivating over a 19-year-old. I feel like in this environment,
I don't
right?
know. It was I found it to be very interesting and puzzling. And she also said the guys that were being presented to her were not really what she was really looking for. Either like they were too old, or they weren't really what she was into, which I mean, that could happen to anybody, but
You mean a shadchan sent a really bad idea? Never heard of such a thing.
well, so she told me that somebody sent her an idea of a guy who was hashkafically, she was like convincing, the shadchan was convincing her that they were hashkafically compatible. And then when it came down to it, she did not like digging, but she saw like one of the references on the resume was sounded familiar, so she called that reference, or she was able to speak to other references to find out a little bit about the guy. And then it turned out that like he had really not fallen into that category of hashkafa for like 2 years. Like, for a good 2 years, he was just
Anything
not at
specific
all.
or anything
Well,
specific?
I can't honestly, I can't remember if it was
I think
that
it was
she wanted
something
somebody
about
who was
davening. I think you
learning.
mentioned. Was it something about
Right,
davening
I
or
can't
something?
remember if it was something she said about him not davening 3 times a day or not going to shul, or if it was about learning. But whichever 2 categories that was, it was very, she like was very dedicated to. And she was like, okay, you can't tell me that we're hashkafically compatible if he hasn't gone to Minyan in 2 years. Not that
Oh
like
yeah.
not that it's a bad thing. If that's what the guy wants to do, then let him do that. But like, don't try to convince me that our hashkafas are totally aligned, trying to convince me to go out with him. And then I find out that like actually it's really not. Like, there's a big gap. Apparently in those 2 years, maybe the shachan hasn't spoken to him, or maybe he's changed drastically, or he hasn't updated his resume. But like, she was like, okay, like, this is just not going to work out. Like, don't try to convince me that we're hashkafically compatible. And then it comes up that like a big hashkafic difference is like in the face. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, this ties into a much broader and bigger problem that we've discussed on the show many times before, starting with Bela Sebra when Bela was on here talking about
Mm-hmm.
trust. And these shadchanim are, excuse my French, a bunch of idiots who have no idea what they're doing, and they
Mm-hmm.
just push, push, and push, and they don't know what. And because of doing stuff like this, such as essentially they're not trying to lie, they just don't look into it. They see some
Right.
stupid resume on a WhatsApp chat, and they just like go based on that. And recently, the other day, a friend of mine reached out to me and said, do you know this girl? I happen to know her. I went out with her. Awful experience, like real douchebag of a person. But even on the resume, I'm like, by the way, she's a lot older than it says on there. I'm just saying, like significantly
Wow.
older, meaning meaning the shotgun that sent it to him didn't even know that there was an issue because it hasn't been updated in probably a couple of years. or whatever.
Right.
I'm totally against these resumes but the problem is that they get them off some WhatsApp chat, whatever, or they get them off wherever. They think they're a shotgun. They don't look into the person. They don't know the person at all, and they just forward a resume. So now they're on the phone with this girl and pushing that, oh, Shkufigli is fine. He looks like a frum guy. Meanwhile, the guy hasn't davened with a minion in 2 years or whatever.
Right.
And it's like the stupidest thing in the world.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think that like there is like thought that has to go behind it. Like you could say to her, "Oh, I have a guy that like I spoke to about 2 years ago. Let me call him and see if his resume is like up to date." Why not? Why not just do that? Why not put in the work or the effort?
Learn about them. Forget about the resume. I just call him and just learn a little bit more about who he is.
Right.
Baylor said it best. I think, that's probably the biggest problem nowadays. And according to her, the old way worked. And what was the old way? The old way was, number one, not everyone in your mother was a shotgun. Number two, people got to know other people, and people wouldn't send essentially ideas that they would only send them if they truly felt this was an actual match. It's kind of like what I did with you, or with what I did with Wassman, whatever it is. I not only thought about why it would fit, I thought about every reason why it wouldn't be a match. So I already went through all like the negatives, but nowadays it's really just like, well, I see someone and they just like convince themselves this is a great match. And even if it doesn't work out, there's no like repercussions. There's no like responsibility anyways. They just forward resumes, hoping one will hit and get a commission off it. That's basically what we're dealing with here. Yeah.
No, so she also mentioned that like the best experiences that she's had with Shadchanim, or Shadchanim encompassing people that she's met to set her up or to get to know her to set her up. The best experiences that she had were when people truly wanted to get to know her, where they do want to spend the time and they want to get to know you.
Yeah. It's not rocket science. People make it so much more complicated than it has to be.
Right. So then why don't people want to just sit down and like really get to know the person?
People have there's no more common sense. They really are. They're just so stuck in their ways. Like, this is just how it's done now. And I don't think people have really brought it up to them that, by the way, you suck at what you do. You should probably rethink this. You're actually causing a lot more harm than good. Like, to them, they're doing a lot of good. To them, they think they're doing a great job. They think they're setting up all these people and they're doing the best job that they can. And no one's really called them out on it. And they really don't realize.
Right. You know what I'm thinking, Max? Maybe we should make some rules and regulations for shotguns. How do we do that? That's what needs to happen. There has to be rules and regulations. Like you said, it's the Wild West. When there's no rules and regulations, literally you could do whatever you want.
I don't think we're in a position to do anything. The only thing we can do is just call this stuff out. I guess just just continue to do what we're doing and spreading the word. Because I think the more the word spreads, the more people I remember, like, even on this show, like when I mentioned that I think girls will, they're dating for the job title and they're not really girls should be dating guys who are winners versus their job title. Just because their job title looks fancy, don't base it off the job title. Like, for example, I know a bunch of people, their job titles are not I would not say that their job titles are very impressive at all, but I guarantee you, I know this firsthand, they're making a hell of a lot more than the doctor is making, like a ton of money, and they're killing it in life.
Right.
They're killing it in life, but like, you wouldn't know based on his job title because you just don't. But if you know the person as a person, he's killing it. And they just don't. And so one person did come up to me and said, like, I took your advice with that. She actually is engaged, whatever. I'm not saying I had anything to do with that. I don't. But however, I feel like a lot of shadchanim would take credit for that. However, there is what to say about what we're doing here as far as spreading the word.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, maybe you did help her and like open up her
Could be.
helped her like open up a little bit more of opportunity to date other types of people rather than just be stuck in one category. Maybe that's what she meant.
Potentially. I'm not going to take credit for it, but like what we're doing here, I think actually does do stuff. Actually
I
does
hope
move it
so. I mean,
slowly but surely. Stay the course.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Slowly but surely.
But it's all, I think it all leads to the same issue. It all leads to Shadchanim just they think they put in the time, but they're not doing it. They're not I'm not saying everyone. There are people that legitimately, as you said, she likes working with the people that genuinely get to know her on a personal level. That's really where it's at. You got to get to know, but like, you know, like I was working with someone, she got to know me on the phone and she really was amazing. However, there were a lot of other shadchanim that never took the time to get to know me. They just send me ideas and stupid things or whatever. Even if it's a girl, like I think this is the craziest part of everything, that I've been sent a girl and I said no to. However, someone who I know and took the time to actually get to know me then told me about this same exact girl and gives me a note and tells me why she feels that this is a good idea. All of a sudden, I'm interested. It's literally because she's built a relationship with me. The fact that I actually trust her is why I would actually say yes, versus if you don't take the time to build that relationship, you could send the exact same person, you will get a different outcome, which is crazy when you think about it. Like two people can send the same exact person. I'll say yes to one and no to the other. It's how you essentially package it. I don't know if you want to use that term. Maybe that's a bad term.
How it's presented.
Present it,
like,
how it's
you
presented.
Want this
exactly.
Random person that I've never met, never spoken
Like
to. I just know her picture. Or do you want to go out with someone who is actually a really good friend of my wife's or like a good friend of mine, and I know her from, I don't know, middle school or college, and I know she'll be a great fit because, and you're just like, well, I will obviously go out with the second person, even though they're the same person.
It's the same person, yeah. Again, like how many times does it happen? Just Shadchanim asking, send me your picture, send me your resume. Like that does anything. They don't take the time to learn about you as a human being, which is what I've said previously, that when someone asks you who you don't know, who you think is going to help you when they ask you for your resume, I put a hard no to it. I'm like, I'm sorry that I don't do that. Don't do it. Because it's just going to piss you off and it's going to burn you. I think it was in episode 16. I think it was Burnout, I believe.
Burnout.
It's like, how do you get burnt out? Because now your hopes are up. You think this person is like actively looking on your behalf. They're not doing anything.
Right.
It's the stupid. It's literally like basic stuff. It's like the most basic of basic stuff to just learn about someone on a human level. And get rid of the stupid resumes. The resumes are useless. People think they're great, whatever. It's like, no,
Right. You would think that it is like very like baseline and that's like where people start, but it's really not. I feel like, but like maybe it's like a time sensitive thing. Everybody's just like so busy that like they can't meet with everybody. There's so many clients, I don't know. Like, the thing is like, I wish I had like a big database so like I could start. But like the thing is like we set up our friends within our group because, or like if I meet somebody or if I hear somebody, I'm like, I can't just like think of somebody right now. I just met you, like come over for another meal or maybe we can have like a friends thing, hangout or something like that. Like you really just need to get to know the person before you even like set them up. So I don't even know why. To me, it's like a no-brainer. It's just part of the process to meet, to understand the person and know a person. But for whatever reason, it's not a standard process of actually genuinely getting to know the people that you are going to set up.
I think it's going to take people to start saying no to people asking for resumes, which I don't see happening. I don't see happening in like the near future. What I can see happening is 2 or 3 people that listen to this episode that actually take it to heart and actually stop handing out their resume or whatever it is, and that trickles into something bigger, which is kind of what we're hoping for. I think that's the only way to make it better, because then it will, not in the immediate, but over the long term, people will now start to realize that people aren't just going to give over their info right away, and we're going to have to think of something different. And that something different is literally what we've been saying this whole time is, why don't you get to know the person a little bit? Spend a little time with them and get to know them. You want to take notes down, great, but just by forwarding resumes is not the answer. It's literally the stupidest thing I've ever seen. It's so stupid, and it's so obvious.
Also, also meeting the person doesn't mean a 5-minute interview. You can't get to know somebody in 5 minutes and be able to set them up with, you know what I mean? In my opinion.
Well, listen, one step at a time. If we can essentially eliminate the resume forwarding business stuff, whatever it is, to, all right, we're having a conversation at least, then you can work on phase 2, which is, I have I feel like maybe I should make a whole video on how I would question someone. For example, I've mentioned this before. It's some of my guy friends who claim they won't date someone who's taller than them. So then what I don't see happening a lot are shadchanim that question them and really try to solidify that what they're saying is really concrete. So if you have a guy friend, let's say, that says they won't date someone who's taller than them, I'll then ask them, would you date some supermodel, whatever it is? I chose Carly Kloss at the time. And 9 out of 10 people are like, of course I would go out with her. I'm like, do you know she's 6'2"? And they're like, wow, I didn't realize that. Maybe I would go out with someone who's taller. Right. So now it just but if someone is like, no, I still will not go out with her because specifically for the reason that she's taller than me, now I know, okay, that's a concrete thing that you absolutely are not going to go out with someone who's tall. But just because, someone tells me I won't go out with someone taller, you actually don't know if they will or they won't until you pressure them a little bit, put some emphasis on, I won't go out with someone who's older than me. Really? I liked it because that happens. This is one of the biggest problems nowadays. Some 53-year-old dude wants to go out with a 20-year-old. I mean, get lost.
Right.
But if you name someone what I just did and really kind of pressure them to see that means you wouldn't go out with XYZ. And if they say, listen, if they just want a 20-year-old, I probably wouldn't work with them anyways because that's stupid. That's really gross. But
it's a little,
you see where I'm getting at. You see where I'm getting at?
Yeah, for sure.
But the first step is to at least start a conversation versus just send me your resume.
Right. No, you're right. I hope we are putting a little bit of a sprinkle into hopeful change and change in a good way of having people, instead of, I would say, having these toxic or these negative experiences with shadchanim. Hopefully the singles kind of take more control of those situations and kind of feel more empowered. I mean, they're the ones that are looking for a mate. They're looking for a spouse. And I feel like that's the singles control. And I feel like that control is definitely lost and almost taken away when you start to speak to shadchans that are more on a negative side of things in terms of how to set somebody up and I guess where they're coming from, their message to the single and everything. What I'm trying to get at is just having singles kind of take more of control of the situation because it's about them. I feel like a lot of people forget about that. They think okay, it's about my parents. My parents are involved, or it's about the shadchan. The shadchan is involved. But it really should be centered around the single and what the single wants, single needs. But unfortunately, it's just not like that. So
yeah, but A lot of singles feel they have no power, and I think that you could actually regain the power, but you got to essentially start throwing it back at them in a way. You don't have to be disrespectful or anything, but just because
Right.
someone asks you for
With
something,
tact. Right. You
say
don't have
no.
to. Right, exactly. I feel like that's where the mixed messages come from. It's like, okay, well, my mother, her really good friend is a matchmaker, and I'm gonna meet with her, and let's just say it didn't go so well. So you feel disrespectful to the shadchan, you feel disrespectful to your mother, obviously, but
I mean
at the end of the
disrespected.
day,
Disrespected.
no, like, what I'm trying to say is, sorry, it was a little confusing. What I'm trying to say is like, let's say you're somebody who is single and young. You're a single young girl, and your mother set up a time for you to meet with, let's say, one of her friends who is a shadchan or somebody who sets people up. And you just did not like the vibes. You didn't like the meeting. You didn't like speaking with her. You didn't feel that she actually wanted to set you up, or it's just an icky feeling.
Right.
Instead of coming home and telling your mother, I didn't like how like your friend spoke to me, or I didn't like this and this about our conversation. I feel like a lot of people in Shidduchim are more like inclined to just like go with it because that's their mother's friend. Their mother knows best. The mother's friend knows best. They're not just going to say no because they're scared, which I understand. And it's not easy to put your foot down and be like, I really just didn't like that meeting. I didn't like how she spoke to me. I didn't like the fact that she was more inclined to ask questions about my family background, not more about me. And I feel like change will come when a lot of singles feel that they can say no, and that it's okay. You can be respectful about declining certain ideas, or not working with a shadchan without being disrespectful.
Well, it just happened to me. Just happened to me, where there's without giving away too much info, there's someone who's been really, really pushy and really annoying as hell. That tried setting me up before. I don't want to give away too much info, but it came to a point where he actually asked me for my height and weight, and that was like super inappropriate in my mind. Super inappropriate. So I said something super inappropriate back to him, and then he's like, "No, come on, just send it." I'm like, "What the hell? Like, no, go screw yourself." I didn't say that,
I remember
but
that. I was like cringing. I
listen,
thought it
my
was I thought it was a mistake text
it was
when
not a
that I
mistake.
think
How
was
do you
up.
mistake that? How do you mistake
I
that?
don't know. I was trying to give the benefit of the doubt.
And then what made it even weirder is like, it's not for her, it's for me. I'm like, that is so weird. So weird on every
I
level.
remember that.
So I basically just didn't even bother responding after that. Recently he just texted me back and saying, well, there's this girl, whatever. First of all, I already know the girl is not a good fit. You're an idiot anyways. But I was going to tell him, because I'm sick and tired of this. I don't want him sending me people. I don't want him to keep going. I was just going to be very firm with him, but I was trying to be as nice as I could. But with the help of Perplexity, which I think is a little bit better than ChatGPT, I came up with a great message saying that, I'm on my own journey. I like to just do this myself. Thank you very much. And that was it. And it actually put an end to it. So there is a way to do it in a nice way. Listen, I'm all for, like, sometimes you really do need to tell the person to go screw themselves. Like, if a reference calls your girlfriend, whatever it is, and asks for what her waist size is, that's the situation where I do think the best way to handle it is to literally throw it back in their face. I think being nice in that situation is not enough because they're going to continue to do it. I think if you throw it back in their face, they'll realize that what they said was wrong and probably not do it again. That's just my own personal opinion. I feel like a lot of people will disagree with that, but that's on you.
I mean,
But
I don't disagree, but I feel like you don't have to be like so I don't know, like so aggressive. You could definitely let them down. Maybe if they still don't get it, if they still keep asking you for like height and weight and stuff, like then you can throw it down and be like,
but
listen,
they
like we're
don't
not
get it.
doing that.
Like, think about it. This is a grown person calling about someone's waist size. They don't get it unless you literally like spell it out for them. That's why I'm of the
Right. You
opinion.
could be like very, very upfront about it and say
I'm of
like
the
that's a
opinion
little
that,
inappropriate.
like if it's a mother of a guy and she asks for what your waist is, I'm like, sure, sure, but let me ask, what's your son's banana size? You know, I'm serious. Like, I feel like this is like, in what other way? Like, if you say legitimately,
Can we say that?
legitimately,
Like, are we allowed to say that? I guess
say whatever we
so.
want. It's our own podcast. I've said that before, but then she's gonna be
Oh
like, but that I
my.
think it would really hit home with that person. Because they would feel what you feel, that it's super inappropriate to ask that question, and that's when they'll understand. Like, if you just say like, I'm sorry, that's really inappropriate, I don't think they get it. They still won't get it. So like, it depends on
Yeah.
if you want to make change or you don't. It depends on who you are.
Right. Right.
But
It may take, to be honest, it may take a single who is trying to get their voice back. It may take a little bit of time. Like it may take a little, they may fall a little bit, like in terms of trying to talk to somebody and try to be very upfront about it. And they may be turned down after speaking to that shach. And like, if somebody's single and they're like, I feel that that's stepping a boundary, like that question is stepping a boundary. And then the shachan just pushes back and pushes back, pushes back. And the single feels then inclined to answer it. That could happen a couple times, I feel like. And then after a couple times of kind of getting in the rhythm of saying, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, maybe there will be like a spark and like generate a little bit of change with the next person. It may, what I'm trying to say is it may take a little bit of time for someone to find that voice. Unfortunately, not everybody has that inner like I don't know what I'm trying to say. Like, I guess that inner voice being like, no, you can take control over this. This is your time. This is about you. Not a lot of people have that yet or don't know how to find it, which is totally normal. Somebody like you, Max, like I feel like,
well, it's because it's easier for me. I find it to be easier for people that have been through something before.
right.
Like, unfortunately, I think it takes like a travesty to finally grow a pair and kind of speak out for yourself. But like someone who hasn't really been through something that's like life altering or whatever might feel it a lot harder. Like, people won't even come on this podcast. They are terrified.
So
Like,
I will say, like for me, thank God, like I personally didn't have a crazy traumatic experience in terms of relationships, but the traumatic experience was like literally day to day speaking to shadchanim. And that in itself like made me put my foot down and be like, okay, like enough. Like this is honestly, this is about me. And like, this isn't about me trying to make a resume for somebody else. I think my resume is fine. I don't care. This is how I'm going to use it. I think my picture is fine. I spent over, I think, $2,000
yeah,
on
it's
headshots
crazy.
because I spent $700 on one photo shoot and I went to
And
a
then they're like,
shotgun
it's
and
not
she
good
didn't
enough.
like the pictures.
Because she doesn't like it, right?
So then I went to another photo shoot. I dropped money. I did not go to like a cheap, like anything. I paid like $700, $500 for a shoot. Like this was coming out of my own pocket. My parents did not back me up in dating. It was just, and then at one point I was just like, oh my God, enough. Like I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for other people. And that's like what really bothered me.
Yeah. Did you ever
Yeah.
pay these shots on him? Did you pay them?
I never went to a shadchan that I had to pay. No.
So at least that's good. At
Yeah.
least,
Thank God. I think
but
I
yeah,
think
but
I would have had a little bit of like at the time, even though I was so like I was on my own for dating and like my parents didn't back me up in any way. So I was like so desperate to speak to Shadcha, and I was like so happy a Shadcha would be able to like speak with me. So I would do everything on my own, but like I had a little bit of a cutoff, I guess, of like, to be honest though, when I started dating, like not a lot of people were paying the shadchans. The only thing that I was paying for was Why You Connects.
right.
That's the
Which
only thing I was paying monthly for.
I've got my own opinion on why you connect.
No,
Yeah,
I know, but like that was the only thing. But
but you had a good friend group though. Like it was a good support system, right?
when I was dating,
Yeah,
or like when I was going through all this, thank
yeah,
God. Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
It was actually my friends that were like, Sarah, you're crazy. You know what you're doing for other people? I literally, like, my friends were like, just, you don't have to do that. You don't have to, you don't have to go to another photographer. Even though I didn't take their advice. But at least, yeah, no, at least I had people that had my back and I had their back. And yeah, but I also wanted to bring up what Danielle brought up as well was she said that she is very artistic. So she did have a podcast,
Nice.
and she also does film, and she also likes to write as well. So she has a very artistic side, and she likes to use that as an outlet for her. She was also told that that is not good for Shidduchim, and that she should she should stop
God.
her podcast, and like she should she was also told that not a lot of guys would go out with a girl who is like who has that type of outlets. And she brought that up because she was listening to the episode about hobbies that we were talking about. So I thought that was also very interesting. She said that Shadchanim told her that when she, like, because of this like artistic expression, that not a lot of guys like her age are going to want to go out with her. They'll find that a little like too out of the box. So she was sent like guys who are like 28, 29. And she was like, this is just like they're way, like, these guys are just too old for me. I'm 20 years old. Like I don't know how I feel about going out with someone 28 or 29.
Right.
But it was more of the idea that like these shadchanim were like, okay, well, because you're artistic, that's bad for shidduchim. Or her friends were saying that like her friends didn't want to come on her podcast at one point because they were nervous about shidduchim.
Sarah, do you know anything about that? People not
Yes.
coming on the podcast. Yeah.
Of
Um,
course, of
yeah.
course.
But that's why we call the podcast Good for Shidduchim. Because I started making a joke about it. Because everything's got to be good for Shidduchim. You know, everything's good for Shidduchim except Shadchanim.
Listen, I hope our podcast is good for shidduchim.
It's very good for Shidduchim.
I
Very good
think
for
it
Shidduchim.
is.
Yeah.
But it was interesting actually to hear somebody's take on it, and coming from like firsthand from one of our listeners. It's not like we're just talking about our own experiences. It was nice to hear that, like, okay, like this girl also is in shidduchim and she is artistic and she has this outlet and she's just being told like you got to drop it, or if you want a certain type of guy, you have to drop it, or this is all I have because you had a podcast, because you like to write, you know.
Yeah. And we had Miriam Zeitlin on here, and to her credit, she spoke about that as well, where it's like someone wanted to become a pilot or something like that. That's phenomenal. By the way, I guarantee you there's a guy out there that finds that super attractive. I think that's the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
Like, if someone presented a girl to me and they're like, she's a pilot, I'm like, that's freaking awesome.
Right.
This again goes into There are people that are involved in matchmaking that shouldn't be, that really don't know what the hell they're going to say. I made 10 I'm like, but you're destroying. Look, why are you telling this girl don't do something that she likes to do? It's not illegal. It's a fun activity. Right. Don't tell her something that's, you know, and I know is stupid advice. It's like really bad advice.
Right. So that's what she was saying. She was like, but I like to do this.
It's none of their business.
And still going to want to do this even when I'm married. Like,
to
you
tell
know, like,
I'm very against.
Which makes sense. You want your outlet even when you're married. Like, of course, like.
They don't realize that, you know, a lot of people feel a lot of pressure that if you don't get married, whatever, at a certain age, you're not going to meet someone. And I totally, and they just add more pressure by doing stuff like this, that I feel like people feel that they might have to, because if I don't do that, then according to these shadchanim, I'm never going to get married. And this is why they absolutely should not be saying, this is like mainstream though. Like, this is not just like one or two shadchanim. It's like literally everybody. It's literally like more than 75% of shadchanim out there.
Honestly, it's how I feel that it is like all shadchanim, but it can't be.
It's not every single one.
It's not every. But
it's well over 50%. It's well over 50%. Enough to talk about it on this podcast. Enough to really kind of shine a light on it. It's literally absurd. I remember when I was 20, when I went to go see a shadchan. She thinks she's a shadchan, whatever. And we were filling out my profile. And I've said this recently before, but I'll say it again because I think it's important. But I'm talking about myself in my own unique way. And then she would then take whatever I say. She's not actively listening to what I'm saying. She just takes what I said and then adds a buzzword to it. That's why you'll hear me say a lot and making fun of a lot that the words family oriented is on a resume, because it happened to me. Like, I would say I'm really big into sports. She'd be like family oriented. I'm like, what does that have to do with anything?
So you like to be family oriented?
Family oriented. It's like, I mean, come on. And so they'll use buzzwords. I'm telling you, look at any resume you've ever seen in your life. I'll bet money that 9 out of 10 of them have the word family oriented on it. Meanwhile, what does it even tell you? Like, you're not family oriented. That's a given. It should be a given, right? Family oriented. Bullcrap. So that's what they're doing.
Or into nature.
Whatever. Well, not everyone's into nature per se. Like, I'm not super into nature, but
or what was it? You would always say like likes hiking or something.
I don't like hiking.
No.
So I said originally, I'm like, I don't like hiking. So that eliminates 99% of the girls out there. But not to get too far off topic, but they're doing the same thing with girls like her. They're telling you what you can and cannot do and whatever. And guess what? Listen, I hope she gets married soon. I hope, at the right time. But let's say someone didn't get married and they're 29. Now they're like, well, I just gave up my hobbies and what the hell? Like, I'm not married.
Exactly.
Like, screw you. Like, there's no guarantee of anything. Just be yourself and just grow as a person. Don't listen to any of this nonsense.
Yeah, no, Max, I think you bring up a good point. And like, okay, so you get rid of what identifies you as yourself, what makes you happy, what you do in your spare time, your like artistic outlet. And let's say, like you said, you don't get married in like 2 years or 3 years, or God forbid, she should get married at the right time. But now you've given up like basically your right arm. Like, you've given up something that is a part of you that made you happy. Why'd you do it? For somebody who said, you have to give it up for dating. Okay, but now here you are 2 years later, you gave it up for dating, and now what? What do you have to show for it? That would be like my worst feeling ever. What a regret. What like lost 2 years, It's not a guarantee. You giving up those things leads you to the person that you're supposed to marry, and the person that you're supposed to be with should respect you for whatever you do in your spare time, should respect you for your outlets. Like, it's like literally the opposite, in my opinion.
This had, yeah, a friend of mine, she was, without mentioning the name, she was really big on LinkedIn. From girl, single girl, was in the radio business, whatever it is. Really unique stuff, I would say. And she told me a lot of shadchan were telling her, it's like, if you want to get married, you're going to have to cut this out. It's unsneus, whatever it is. And I told her, I'm like, listen, the decision's up to you, but really, you want to give this up? She's like, of course I don't. I'm like, then don't.
Right.
Like,
right.
they know, like, they have the answer to this. Like, they because you give it up, therefore you're going to, and even if you do, like, why would you want to marry someone who's going to marry a fake? Like, just be yourself. By the way, I now I'm starting to realize, like, because I've always complained about this, that, you know, from a guy's perspective, every girl seems the exact same thing. Family oriented, goal oriented, looking for a guy to daven 3 times a day, right? If they actually didn't tell people to give up your hobbies and just, you know, as Ellie Leibowitz said, right? I forget like which band he was talking about, but if a girl liked, you know, some X, whatever it is, that should be like the #1 line on their profile, because it's something it's something unique. I'm saying, like, if someone's a pilot,
like a unique type of band, if
I saw someone is a pilot, I'm like, I think that's freaking awesome. I think that's super. Like, they're talking to shadchanim who don't know how a guy thinks. I would say most guys would probably find that to be really cool. That's my own take. I definitely.
But also, if you don't, then, like, okay, that's not the guy for you. Or like,
there's too much fakeness. Too much. You got to be perfect. You got to go to the right schools. If you didn't, then you're out. Perfect. They're actually, I feel like, disconnecting all the potential connectors. It's like, if someone, again, something unique happened in their life and they overcame it, I find that to be more of an opportunity to connect with that person versus, well, someone's just perfect, they never had any issues ever, it's harder to, you know what I mean?
Right.
So what they're saying is wrong, and I think it's going to take, I'm actually really glad that she reached out. And there are a number of other people, but in their, like, when they're 19 or 20 or 18, that are starting in Shidduchim, and they were looking for like a Shidduch podcast, and they found us, and I'm glad they did, because honestly, I wish I knew this stuff when I was 20.
Right.
Because I feel like it definitely would have for sure helped.
Right. I was gonna say I'm very thankful that she did reach out to us. It opened up our eyes, because we were more. Or, well, I mean, Max is still in it, but Mitzvah Hashem, it should all work out. But what sparked the idea of Good for Shidduchim was that I was dating, like, later. You're also dating later. And we had perspective of, like, older singles. But she brought in a perspective of a 19, 20-year-old that literally is having issues. It's not like a one-way street here, you know. Like, issues happen at the beginning and for different ages, and it's just nice to hear that that she I'm thankful that she did reach out to us, that she felt okay with us talking about it, and that she was able to express what she's dealing with. And not and everybody, and I hope that, like, everybody who is also feeling those feelings, like, reach out to us as well, or talk amongst themselves, you know. It like, they're not alone, and it's evident. You're like, these people are not alone, because they're reaching out to us. So
right. Yeah. No, there's a lot more out there, you know. Little by little, we're starting to crawl and starting to, again, just get the word out.
Yeah. But okay, any final thoughts? No,
Max? If you take anything from this, remember, you're not forced to do anything. A lot of people put a lot of pressure on people unnecessarily. You got to do this, you got to do that. If you don't do this, you're never going to get married. It's all nonsense. It's all hogwash. I think that's a good word, right? Is that a
hogwash? I thought you were going to say Hogwarts. I got a little excited.
No, I'm not into. I read exactly one page of Harry Potter. I had enough.
Gosh. You have to read it
I
again.
heard it wasn't good
you
for
have to read
Shidduchim,
that
so
one page
I don't
again.
read Harry Potter. No, I think I saw the second movie. I was out. I'm not really into this stuff.
Oh
I don't
my
think it's good for
God.
Shidduchim, So I think a
Oh,
shadchan told me
gotcha.
you shouldn't watch Harry Potter. So maybe
Mm.
I'm just kidding. But I think if you get anything out of this, if someone's being too pushy, someone is asking for information that you don't feel comfortable giving, I think you have every right in the world. Just like if someone asks you for $20, you have no obligation to give it to them. You don't.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing in Shidduchim. Some shadchan that you may or may not think is going to help you, they probably won't. If my rule of thumb is if they don't even take the time to get to know you, they're definitely not going to help you. Or you think they're going to just send your resume out to a bunch of people, you think that's going to help you? It's just going to cause
Right.
more anxiety and you're going to get pissed off. So
Right.
I think if you get anything from it, I think that's one of the big message.
Yeah.
Shidduchim.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. Again, please give us a 5-star review, like us, subscribe to our page, and until next time, we'll see you. Bye.
And remember, everything will always be about Shidduchim. Catch you in the next episode.